we as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back to the trade shows?
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to properly partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
It's really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo, trying to put all technology together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week, so I think a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors, a lot of media, a lot of people, attendees are all thinking about what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
We will be back tomorrow and show you more great things.
How has the show been for you guys? It's been absolutely fantastic. The foot traffic has been amazing. The people that have come are actual real buyers. So many times you get the tire kickers and this has been qualified people coming through, a great volume of them, and really we're doing fantastic in the booth.
Would you say that your success is a mirror of how the industry is developing right now?
Absolutely.
We needed to be part of the event because it's all about automation from software, printing, and finishing equipment perspective. It is a must-attend event. And the industry is the only place where you can see all of this automated work together in the same place.
Well, that was our little teaser for today's subject. So, Hans Schmidbauer from Canon EMEA, are you there? You just have to turn on the microphone as well.
Thank you very much.
I think actually that is one of the words that have been mentioned the most times during the pandemic started. Turn on your microphone, turn off your camera.
Exactly.
So, Hans Schmidbauer, first, a very warm welcome here to this session. I mean, everything we do is live, so we take all the errors of cameras and sound and bad video quality as part. As long as the stories are good, then I think we can manage to do that. Before we get started, can you tell a little bit who you are and what your role is with Canon EMEA?
Yeah, my name is Hans Schmidbauer, as you said, and I'm responsible within the Canon EMEA organization for commercial print and the marketing related topics. So actually, commercial print is our division where we see all our small format inkjet products. So our sheet fed presses and also our continuous feed presses and the respective workflow solutions.
And I would think, as you're working in communication, I would think that your life has not been easier during the COVID-19 pandemic, right?
Well, it was a challenge, but we were happy also to take that challenge. We reviewed our plans just 2 weeks ago.
Really?
How we went into the year and what we actually made happen. And yeah, this year was clear continuous adjustment to the situation. And but I think in retrospect, yeah, as companies have adjusted their plans, have had to adjust the execution of it. Also, we believe that we took out a lot of positive things, but yeah, it was a challenge, but we've also learned quite a lot. That's for sure.
Taya yesterday from the US said it's business. Even if you're in a crisis, it's business.
Correct. Yeah.
That is definitely true. Hans, the way I see Canon as a player, both in the US and in Europe, I don't know in Asia, to be honest, but when I see you as a very prominent player in the industry, because from my perspective, it seems that you adapt quite fast to new situations, because I mean sometimes you could think that a large company takes more time to change the course, right? But it seems that your team and yourself have been very agile in adapting to the situation. Is that part of the Canon DNA, or is it you, or is it how do you value or view this from your own perspective?
I think that's a good question, and I'm not sure whether it is really a DNA, but it is really a professional approach, I think, how to manage projects. And what we continuously do is we check the viability of our approach, and not only with the projects that we did for short-term activities, but really also the longer-term ones. So irrespective of whether that is something we did over the last couple of years already, we are always challenging the status and adjust where necessary. And I think that is true to the European team, as you rightly say, and as well as also for the US. And we try to be also closely aligned, and we have regular discussions. And in today's world, a regional split and the communication towards the market obviously should be aligned, because the message just shares and spreads, and you know it better than anybody else, having so many interviews with different parties from the different organizations.
One of the things that has been one of the topics that we wanted to discuss during today and yesterday is, of course, the needs in the market, because obviously a vendor needs to communicate their products because they want to have the sales. Obviously PSPs would like to get information so they make the right decisions. Obviously the media, they just want to get money from you guys, right? So I was just kidding with the last one, but I was wondering if you look at the pandemic and since the lockdown in March in Europe, have you been able to, because you launched the IX series just as the lockdown started, and we were so fortunate to have the first sneak peeks on INKISH together with your colleagues from the Netherlands. But have you been able to reach your commercial objectives regardless of the COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a good one, because in the end, you need to really break down on what it is you want to achieve, and commercial objective is definitely one. But in the beginning of your question, you mentioned also the different target groups, being with media being one. And I think if you drill it down and make it very specific on what it is you want to achieve for the respective target group or with the respective target group, then you can also balance your approach and find the right solution. Mm-hmm. From a commercial perspective, it was during the pandemic or during the first lockdown, the expectation and the forecast were more negative than in the end it turned out. So we were able to launch products also in a different way. We were able to have fruitful customer discussions. Also in a different way that we were used to. We have a dedicated sales and service team in the countries that tried to do the utmost to stay close to our customers, to prospects. So in the end, it was a big effort of a big team. And looking back, the commercial objectives for this year, we obviously had to adjust, but in the end, we are quite satisfied with the outcome. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I have experienced, and I don't know if it's because the relationship between Canon and INKISH in Europe is new, but what I have experienced, and not just from an INKISH perspective, but also when I look at some of my colleagues in the media industry, I think that you have been very good also seeing some media as partners in your communication rather than just a supplier. I saw, for example, when you sold an IX3200 to Irlanders in Sweden, there was a quite comprehensive article in actually the publication of Peter that was attending yesterday, not just showing the product and the business case around it, but also, you know, more a wider perspective of why the IX3200 of course is an important product. My question is that a strategy that you, because the reason why I'm asking is because in the past, if I exaggerate a little bit, you have a press release, it comes in some magazines or some websites, you have some advertising, and then it's like, that's like that. But it seems that now also you see an advantage of sharing information from the press to your channels. So it's more like a collaboration between media and a vendor. Is that something that is new, or have I just not experienced it before?
Yeah, this is definitely something which we were focusing on. It probably is not rocket science or very revolutionary or new, but again, when you really want to investigate and really want to find out what it is you want to achieve, then you also see media different than you may have just seen it is if it is just another stakeholder. But when looking at it from an end-to-end perspective and an ecosystem of what we are all in the industry and what our role is and what our purpose is, that's what we try to optimize, and the collaboration with media, as well as the collaboration with our customers as partners and not only as somebody that is buying our kit. That's something that is very much in the core of our strategy. So it is probably not surprising to me that you give that as or you reflect that back, because that's something which we try to achieve, not only with media but also in our events on how we are addressing specific topics, specific trends, and how we also collaborate with the stakeholders in the value chain to maximize the outcome of those trends and also of the potential in the business.
But I think you also enhance the way you do storytelling at Canon. I was really amazed by that when I joined the Book Forum event a couple of weeks ago. It was the perfect way to present this kind of forum, which was always related to personal contacts, being in Poing and all of a sudden it was a very smart way to entertain really in a clever, informative way, that you have new visual experiences. And also the guy who was drawing, and he did by drawing, he did a whole report of all the sessions.
Yes.
That was fascinating. Was that a major shift inside the organization, a mind shift to switch to this new way of storytelling? So
if yeah. Again, the Future Book Forum, and thank you for raising that, because the Future Book Forum is also in relating to the earlier question, a strategy that we are trying to fulfill or execute, looking at it from an end-to-end perspective. And the Future Book Forum not only addresses the print service providers as a very important target group, but also the print buyers, so the publishers. And we try to establish a platform where those stakeholders can meet, can share their challenges, can talk about potential business improvement, and where we believe as Canon we can play an important role as being the technology provider, but also the one that is allowing these people to meet. And in the Future Book Forum, we also try to identify topics that are relevant for the industry. So we don't see us so much in the center, but more as a facilitator for exchange. And the scribbling and the drawing within the case studies or within throughout the session, this is something that we started off already very early in our journey with the Future Book Forum. I can't really recall the year, but when we started in 2013 with the Future Book Forum, David Vignoli, this is the one that is scribbling and was always part in our Future Book Forum. So he's summarizing in a very nice way the conversations, the discussions, and in the end you then have a nice picture. And what I find also really interesting is this, it is a very nice shift from an online event and a very old school analog documentation or scribbling of what's going on. I think again we did in the concept phase of the event, we tried to make most out and not just a physical event into an online format, and you need to need to maximize the infrastructure capabilities. But at the same time, you need to be aware that you cannot just copy and paste into an online format.
Yeah.
Great.
So I think for me, the learning was that I experienced Canon as something like a conversation enabler. And I think that's a very important role, not only to have messages and to push them and to report about what we are doing. It was so highly interactive. For me, the best experience inside the printing community so far. And I can also understand when you say it's not there is no blueprint from the past which you can convert one-to-one to the situation now. Was that a big challenge, or what the skills do you need inside your team? Because that's a very unusual way.
Yeah, that's true. We do have a good team spirit within the wider CP team, and that's definitely something which I'm very fortunate. I'm sitting here now in the office, so we still are allowed to go to the office. There are some regulations and rules to adhere, but it is very important to actually be there and to have the proximity to also the other colleagues. So a lot of the creativity starts with sharing learnings from just another meeting, and even though it's maybe not that relevant for him, it may trigger some other ideas. So we've consciously also built upon that, and that's definitely something which we developed over the past couple of years, and not only started now when we need to do it online, that we challenged the status quo, and we then, let's say, changed our way to also come up with concepts for events. So that's a team effort where we also very consciously try to start from scratch and challenge the status. Also mentioned earlier, this is why we could adapt then in a quite quick way, even though we are a big corporation, a big organization. However, we've worked together also not only within the CP team but in the wider production printing team within Canon. We know each other. We share the same beliefs. It is the same purpose why we believe we are in the business, and that's why we have a good fundament, a good basis to then go into specific events and specific challenges.
Talking about events, my question before related to how the pandemic has influenced both your communication turnaround and your sales, of course. In that respect, and the reason why we also have this conversation is because when exhibitions like Drupa is not only postponed but also cancelled for 21, I think it became quite clear relatively fast that the bigger exhibitors like yourself and some of your colleagues in the same segment decided to withdraw from Drupa. I can imagine that one thing is, of course, the safety of employees and visitors and things like and also expectations for how many attendees that will come to a show like Drupa. But it must also have been to some extent, nervous about the outcome, because if Drupa is a huge investment, you also expect to have a huge ROI on it, right? So has that negative of not having Drupa in 2020, has that influenced your objectives, or is that more because of the COVID-19? Do you understand my question here?
Yeah, I think I do.
Thank you.
And it is really the value in what you do as a company in total. The return on investment of a trade show, of an event, is at least in my opinion something that you need to consciously define on what it is you're really looking into, because depending on the industry you're in, and depending on the investments that are being done, the decision whether or not to buy a product or whether or not to buy a solution is in only very small situations something that you start at an event in that minute where you're at. So most of the time you are either already prepared to take a decision because you've done your due diligence before, and you just want to take that moment and then decide for one or the other. But that sales objective that is always tied with trade shows, I think that's an important one, but probably not the only one. In our
branding and community and also I guess that's an opportunity for Canon to meet colleagues from other places in Europe, and this interaction between entities I guess is also a quite important aspect, right?
That's exactly, and yeah, we attended trade shows because obviously we want to grow our business. We want to reach out to the unknown prospect and customer, and yeah, you need to be there at the platform where you can then start these discussions, and yeah, the other objectives that you just mentioned are critical, and they are all part of an ROI. But it is difficult to measure them because in the end, if a sales cycle starts with a first meeting at Drupa that wasn't really scheduled and planned, in the end, nobody will link that back to the ROI of the event itself. So
I can tell you that I have worked in marketing in the music industry before I joined the printing business, and I think that the starting point of a sales depends a little bit on who you're asking. If it's a salesperson you ask, it's always sales that is responsible for that. If you ask a marketing person, it's always because of good marketing, right? and maybe the truth is somewhere in between, right? But one of the reasons why I'm a little bit curious about this, because as a large vendor, you obviously both locally and also on a global scale participate in a lot of events. I think, and I'm not sure this is true, but you can confirm or not confirm, is basically that I think that Canon has also taken on a responsibility to support the industry in a wider, in a broader perspective, in the sense that sometimes you may participate in this event even though it's doesn't have a huge audience, but you support INKISH by giving your opinion. Also, when we did the first Learn With Us session, where Heiko and your team from the Netherlands were participating, and nobody really knew if it was a successful thing. But and that involved a little money, but this doesn't involve money. But I'm just saying that it seems to me also that Canon is really have the normally you would call it the CSR, but it's not CSR. It's like industry social responsibility kind of thing. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yes, definitely. And because you mentioned CSR, this is really the DNA of Canon, the Kiyosei, to live and work for the common good. But you mentioned also the collaboration with INKISH and events, and obviously, if we truly believe in it, and our commitment to the print industry is a very honest one. That is why we do attend. Obviously, we are also a company that needs to balance where to spend their money. So we do conscious decisions and reflect that as well. In the end, it is really both. So we don't just attend at events because it is the print industry. But if there is a concept in place which we believe is valid for us, for our customers, because in the end trade shows and events are predominantly there to offer solutions to specific problems, and this is why we actually are attending and also displaying our products, not so much to just push it out, but to really identify where there is potential to improve our customers' business. And this is why it is more than just the display of a hardware or a software. We also bring that in a perspective, and you could say it is storytelling, but in the end it is what does it mean for a specific situation. How can then a change in a workflow, a change in the business model really make value or optimize production at our customers?
And that was actually also one of the questions I raised in our little topic description of this session was, I can imagine that you and your colleagues are approached from numerous people who want to work with you in one way or another. How do you, I mean, because you say that it's about relevance and it's also that the format fits into your thinking. And what kind of considerations do you do? Because I mean, if you have, let's say, 10 shows and they are all good, it would be easy if the budget was not a restriction, right? But let's say that you have shows where you have to do your balancing on where you spend your time and money. What kind of objectives are you looking into? I don't know if you can answer this because it's a difficult question, but I'm curious about it anyway.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, and obviously you invited me as Canon EMEA, and within CP, which I'm responsible for, so commercial print. The number of occasions where which are relevant for the high speed digital print equipment, it is different than if you would compare it to Canon as such. Canon obviously is much wider, but if you look into the specific categories, whether it is wide format, whether it is small format, the number of potential events and potential activities is manageable.
Mm-hmm. So so it's not as difficult as it could sound.
It's not as difficult, no, but we are obviously working closely together with the other categories, and we then have also some more people to deal with, and what I mentioned, we are all sharing the same purpose, the same basic beliefs of why we are there and what it is we want to deliver as a message. So in the end, there are more people in the organization, and our goal is obviously to have that one face to the customer. And in the end, there are different teams that are then delivering events where you then attend at a FESPA, where there are other people involved, but it is the same fundament and the same message.
Yeah, and when you then decide to do your own events, because it takes time, costs money, it's a huge work. I know that. I was thinking, is that, and then that maybe also relates a little bit to the topics of today, because you see. I know that Think Ahead in America is a little bit different because it's organized by the user group. But if you look at something like Hunkler Innovation Days, where you also participate, or the Think Smart Factory in Kyoto, where you also participate, these kind of, I call them corporate or / private events. You know, when I speak to some of your colleagues, it seems that these events are more tailored toward a specific segment in the market, and they basically covers a need that the normal trade shows don't do. So when you do, for example, some of your virtual events or some events in general, when it's not COVID-19, is that for the same reasons that you don't think that the traditional trade shows are delivering that Canon experience that you are looking for?
Yeah, you mentioned Hunker Innovation Days. You mentioned very focused events, and obviously, if you look only on that level, you may differentiate and may compare them in a way that we have a focused target group or visitors that are very much looking into one specific thing that you can actually then deliver, and that's great, and we are really a fan of those events, and we are there. And the good thing is also in the smaller events, but this is also true for the bigger ones, to really be there with competition and with your friends from other vendors, because in the end we are all, let's say, we have the goal to drive improvement in the print industry, and this is also a balance where you can use such an event as a compass, whether you are in the right direction, whether how do you position against each other, and the great thing is that in those events you're actually then invited also to the competition hubs and to their show floor, and you get a tour. So in the end, it is also a collaboration between the vendors, whether it is a small event or smaller event like Hunkeler, it is meanwhile also a big one, or whether it is Drupa, whether it is a virtual event where you then have a specific topic that you are highlighting. So yeah, in the end, again, it is a question on the objective of the event. For a big trade show where all the different stakeholders within an industry turn up and show up, you obviously have a complete different set of objectives you can fulfill. It is the one that never thought of digital print, for example, and he comes by by surprise, and then he's starting to look into the potential of that technology, but haven't really thought of that alternative before. This probably won't happen at an event which is 100% focused on digital print.
And
so,
where it's more normally per invite only, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is the question whether you for our own events, we obviously try to also get hold of as much prospects and customers as possible to then start to have a detailed discussion face to face. But again, not all people that we invite would actually then visit to our Custom Experience Center, may it be in Birmingham, in Venlo, or in Poing. So in the end, there is a purpose to a lot of different event scenarios, so to say.
I like the fact that you mentioned your competitors / colleagues as also an inspiration, because I mean, nobody has said that during these 2 days so far, and I think it's actually very true, because we spoke about with Peter and Gareth, we spoke about that you get from a media perspective, you can go and talk to competitors and chase facts and market positions and things like that. But you're totally right that if a vendor, and I think that one of the things I like about this industry is that we have, from where I see it, a very friendly relationship with also the competitors. And I think that when you go to a trade show, people are mostly very open in showing what they do, even to competitors, because this is the finished product, right? So there is no secret at this time, right? I like that approach very much. So we definitely need to have the trade shows back.
Exactly.
And will the shows return to the once glorious time, you think? Like, will we have a 300,000 people Drupa in 3 years? It's 4 years. It's not a prediction whether it will happen or not. It's more like, will we have these size of shows?
Yeah, that's probably nobody's able to tell. And I would say that I personally believe that we won't get back to a number of visitors like you just mentioned that we've had 20 years ago. And I think the COVID is not directly influencing that, but probably indirectly. We've seen a trend already prior to it, and that was really that companies, even the healthy companies, they didn't send their entire management team, but it is the decision makers. And I think that trend was very much seen already the years before, where the quality of the people, and I think you nicely addressed that in the series which you wrote about extensively over the last couple of weeks. So I'm supportive of all the reasons why we've seen the trend and going down in numbers. And what we discussed in the beginning, the crisis, people had to adjust, and I think and companies had to adjust their approach, their go-to-market. And in this adjustment, things went well. Things didn't go that well. So. And again, in the Future Book Forum, there was a great presentation of Canvas 8, and they talked about this set phases in the crisis. And I think we are currently in this adjustment. We are not yet in the re-evaluation phase, or maybe we are just starting to, because now we've made our first experiences with alternative ways to deliver our message. But we need to now re-evaluate, and only after the re-evaluation phase, we are going into this new normal. And I think that we will find a lot of positive learnings out of the current situation that may become then a part of the new standard going forward. So I believe, and this was mentioned already a couple of times, not in this session, but in earlier sessions, that a lot of the learnings will last and will be a new standard to events being delivered going forward.
Coming back, could I ask, coming back to your idea, Hans, that the Future Book Forum is something like a platform. Could it be a blueprint also for other segments and application areas? Because I like really that format, because you are able to bring print buyers and print service providers, and Canon is more or less the host. And if somebody is asking, you have all the technologies both parties need. So your work, your portfolio is not in front. The customer needs, and not only your customer, but also the customer of the customer. Could that be a good blueprint for other areas and application segments?
Yeah, definitely. And you're probably referring to it and see it as not only a platform, but also as a community. It is a discrete set of people. It is a group of people that share the same concerns, that have similar challenges, that are willing to improve, to change the world maybe, or their respective area in the business. And if you can define, and the better you can define the group and what it is that you discuss, the better, the sharper it is, and the more outcome is there for people to participate, and the community obviously can then live, taking not only the input of let's say the facilitator, but then start to share their experiences, which makes it then the sum is suddenly then more than just the individual inputs, and this makes it a great basis for further developments. And this and I believe, coming back to your question, the better you can describe that specific topic and the interest, the better the outcome of it is, and definitely something that can be built around other topics as well.
Right.
Fantastic. Last question, and that refers a little bit to your answer before about the decision makers not coming, or the high-ranking decision makers, and to some same extent come to the trade shows. If the decision makers are not coming to the trade shows as they used to, will that influence the how much money is going to be invested in the future of trade shows? Because I was thinking that when you said that, I think that, okay, one of the reasons why we love Drupa and hate Drupa at the same time is the size, right? It's so nice to be a big place where you can see everything, and it's so annoying that you can't see everything even in 11 days, right? And I was just wondering if
14 days.
Or 14 days. I was just thinking that if fewer of the decision makers are coming to, could that lead to maybe a smaller footprints for a lot of exhibitors, or is it also a branding exercise to show off?
Maybe then my answer was I wasn't maybe too clear. I wasn't referring to that the number of decision makers will decrease, but the number of visitors in general will decrease.
Okay.
And it is then only the decision makers, or maybe the decision makers plus a smaller group of people that are actually visiting. And in the end, we will see the trend of, the trend is probable. I don't know whether it is a linear trend or whether we have already seen with 2016 or 2012 to 2016, we already saw that downturn. And I think that part of it was that companies are more conscious about who they are sending. So I think in the end, the decision makers, they will stay and they will continue to travel.
And that makes the relevance of the show, but it could be smaller footprint. So maybe when we evaluate a trade show in the future, we don't have to look at the numbers. We have to look at the qualifications and the quality of the attendees, right?
Yeah, and the floor space obviously is strongly linked to what it is you want to display. And what we not only at Drupa do, and what we also at Hankel Innovation Days or other events do, we try to be as close to the market and close to production environments as possible. So typically it is not the standard kit that we display, but we show that integrated into a complete finishing line. So the space that is required is still quite big, and it is obviously in the end always again linked to an ROI discussion, which is linked to the number of people attending. But as mentioned also earlier, there are other objectives that also play in. And if you are keen to really show end-to-end solutions, innovative integrations with partners, and produce final products, then you need space. So in the end, it is an argument, and it is something to look into. But again, it's not the only one.
I can't help think about when I interviewed Sabine Gelderman at Hankel Innovation Days. I said to her, "It's your luck that the inkjet devices are getting bigger, right? Because you need more floor space, right?" Well, Hans Schmidbauer, Canon EMEA, it's been a pleasure to have you here on our Learn With Us What's Next. A very valuable contribution. So I thank you very much for your time here, and appreciate everything, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I look forward to see you in person at some point.
Yes, thanks for having me, and all the best to you as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Also from my side, and what I've learned is we have to put things in context to deliver a complete picture, and I think that's a good perspective for the next year. So stay healthy, stay safe, and we hope to talk to each other soon.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, bye-bye.
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 We as an industry have a challenge convincing the print service providers and the industry to back to the trade shows.
I think this is our absolute responsibility to show the universe of print, different business models, how to probably partner and take the win-wins of every partnership. And this is, I think, a big tendency observed not only on the visitor side, but as well on the supplier side.
really a one-roof approach to a print expo or printing expo. Trying to put all technology together and all segments of the market together in one spot.
Drupa was cancelled last week, so I think a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors, a lot of media, a lot of people, attendees, are all thinking about what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?
We will be back tomorrow and show you more great things.
How has the show been for you guys? It's been absolutely fantastic. The foot traffic has been amazing. The people that have come are actual real buyers. So many times you get the tire kickers and this has been qualified people coming through, a great volume of them, and really we're doing fantastic in the booth.
Would you say that your success is a mirror of how the industry is developing right now?
Absolutely.
Part of the event because it's all about automation from software, printing, and finishing equipment perspective. It is a must-attend event. And the industry is the only place where you can see all of this automated work together in the same place.